Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Sarcastic with the Hyperloops here. So I want to talk about the Holocron documents that came out yesterday. There's the update to the rules document and the Holocron document. So there are a lot of items that got adjusted. They cleaned up the whole playing a card thing into like the 7 like steps for it, which is pretty much a godsend, because it's nice to finally have the sub steps for that shit, not trying to like figure it out yourselves and kind of following crap. But so let's get to the nitty gritty and talk about some of the cards that got hit. I'm probably gonna leave Snoke for last just because it's probably the largest subject. We'll go over the ones that pretty much kind of made sense having to hit and the necessary ones. So like Holocron got completely obliterated. It now gives you 1 resource for each copy that's in the discard pile, meaning if you have to run 3 of them just for the 3rd one to give you 2 resources, which is a drastic change from the original intent. I think it would have been interesting to just make it similar. So like if you were trying to cycle 3 of them and you're not as screwed, but then you still get close to the full value if you just ran 2 Holocrons. So something like I don't know, you'd somehow have to get 2 resources for having 1 copy in the discard pile, and then but 0 for the first one. So that one's kind of tough, because like normally you would get the option just by running the card, but they don't want to have a 0 cost card that just gives a resource. So like I understand where they came from, but I'd probably go with if you have a copy of this card in your discard pile, gain 2 resources, and then plus 1 resource for each additional copy in the discard pile. That would keep it so the second one makes 2, the 3rd one makes 3. But they just wanted to get it nerfed to hell, so good job. Might as well just fucking ban the thing. Then award ceremony got hit, and if I'm not mistaken, because I quickly read it and I was like, all right, well this got obliterated. Does it now set aside the same number of cards you fucking drew? Like, what the fuck is wrong with them? They're like, you know, this kitty shitty card's only done with these combo decks and these Holocrons, which we already crushed. So let's not have a fucking any sort of draw engine. But renewed purpose is fine because it requires a plot. It's like, all right, let's just murder it. Okay. And that's what they did. They killed it. At first I figured it was gonna just like set itself aside, but they make you ruin your hand after. They don't even give you like a -1 or something. But that thing's dead. I would have liked to use it occasionally in decks that needed some sort of draw engine but couldn't have access to renewed purpose. So like any of the armored reinforcement decks that had 3 guys might have wanted to have like a draw 3 that wasn't tied to the armored reinforcement, just because the plot kills itself, and you can no longer renewed purpose because you cannot spot it. We also saw hit the Sienna. Sienna's was kind of fine. Like, it's just a power action now, so you can use it, once a round. No machine gunning off of like a Dooku Sailor, or if you did some crazy shit. I don't know how the hell you get Millennium Falcon in the deck, but you could have in theory like kept on tapping it to get money off of it in some crazy format of limited. But yeah, like Dooku Sailor was the one that could actually pay for itself to untap over and over quite easily. But outside of that, you would have to like ramp real hard to do that. What else did we get? We got some clarifications to a lot of the cards. People can now stop arguing about fucking Ataru Strike on Luke 3's die. Like, the way the game ends up working is that for some odd ungodly reason, if a die is checking for like the face of the side of a die that's trying to resolve, it can like change because it's in the resolution point due to the way that they worded things like Luke 3 or Zeb. So whether I don't think I said that correctly, but the breakdown is this: you cannot guard and use Luke 3's shield dice because you're not in the middle of resolving, therefore it cannot be treated as melee. But with the Ataru Strike, because you're in the middle of resolving and Luke's ability allows you to resolve it as melee, it'll check at that point and allow you to Ataru Strike off of a Luke die because it is, currently showing melee during the point where you're it is currently capable of showing melee as you're attempting to resolve. So that lets you do that shit, and realistically, that's not even that great. Kind of crummy. But anyways, moving on. So I can't think of any of the other hits, but there was probably a couple other cards. In my mind, I think that was just about it. So we've got Snoke with the +1 point. And now the +1 point's really interesting because the Snoke decks, while it's being very good, always felt like a lot of times there's certain matchups where you could have got them if you could have only had, you know, a couple more damage, or, you know, potentially slightly better start. So pretty much none of the Snoke decks that got hit really completely lost play. And what happens here is that we have access to bitter rivalries. So you can essentially get that Snoke errata off by taking 2 damage and letting your opponent draw a card at the beginning. This can be really, really bad for a lot of decks because a lot of Snoke is just like, alright, you know, Snoke plus whatever helper in a 2-wide, i.e. Thrawn, or in like 3-wide decks, you have pretty low health pools. So it'd be much easier to, if Snoke's not your main target, you can wipe a guy off the table. So like, let's say Snoke, Basine, Faust, you could just go and, you know, murder Basine by, you know, poking for 2. She goes from 7 to 5, or no, sorry, 8 to 6. A lot easier to kill for any of the aggro decks. You know, new Big Daddy Vader is gonna crush her, or could crush her with just, you know, 2 dice. So it doesn't necessarily change the entire format as a whole, but taking 2 damage and giving your opponent the 6th card could be a huge downfall. A lot of the time we're looking to, you know, get those kills round 2, and we like kind of barely get alive, or sorry, barely stay alive, and can get it through round 3. And like then being able to get like the benefits from the dice at that point can put you way ahead, and you may have, you know, killed something on the opponent's side. Especially since like if Snoke's your main target, he's at 9 health, and 9's not really low. If this was like, you know, Bala, Sienna, Night Sister taking 2 damage, like Bala's at 6 now. Like, whoop, that dude. One quick slip up and dude's dead. Killing round 2 seems pretty easy there. You can definitely still kill Snoke from 9, and it's not that it's really hard, it's just that 11 was quite ridiculous to get into and kill the guy. So I usually just stop moving. So it's just one of those things where like all those decks are still alive, and you know they're just technically not as well off as they used to be. They have a rougher start because of the damage. So you know, if Thrawn takes his battlefield and then takes 2 damage, he's at 10. And 10 is a much easier number for decks like, you know, Jyn Cass or Vader, any of the more aggressive decks to get in and take him down with. Also, any of the model deck could just, you know, opt to run Solidarity. So, Kylo Snoke. I don't think there was a Snoke Townsend model deck, but that could have been interesting. But yeah, so like Bitter Rivalries does help change that. If they really wanted to kill off all of those team comps, they would have made Snoke +2. But I don't think they wanted to kind of ruin him to that extent. Like, I think they've already learned what happens when they give +2s in the balance of the Force, and it's that normally speaking, those guys become completely unplayable. Because like Poe 1 was like, oh well, here's a balance, you just can't play him with Maz, and then you can't play him with Elite Maz. Get the fuck out of here. So it'd be interesting to. I think it'd be interesting to see if they had scaled back like FN by 1 point or Poe by 1 point. But realistically, it just doesn't matter. Like the goal is not to see if something could be allowed to be playable again. It's to just make sure that anything that is controlling a bit too much of the format is scaled back. Because if realistically, like there's no money in them fixing like Finn 1 or old janky shit. Just let it rotate. They can print new versions and see if it works out. Like we have, you know, Finn 2, and we have a lot of different variations of the same type of card. So like the new Jabba that comes out, you know, that's like somewhere in between like Unkar and you know, a pseudo draw engine, because you get the like tutor for events, or tutor top 4 for events. And I was gonna start using magic terms, because I think that's like impulse or something like that. We look at like top 4 and take one, throw rest on the bottom. But so it's definitely interesting to see, like, Yoda not getting hit is still like perfectly fine to an extent, because so oddly enough, he didn't get the same value that Snoke got, because like Snoke's value could often be immense. So like the way I would say it is if you resolve 2 of Snoke's dice and then use his ability, it was much more beneficial. It was often more beneficial than the way like Yoda uses his special, because the special is pretty much going to get you resource or shield, and then like you're looking to focus. If you chain them together, you're getting 2 resources. Like you do get your resources faster, but Snoke could get that 2 buff benefit to a character die pretty much no matter what was going on, unless you controlled all those dice. So it was much easier to use his ability, and like Yoda just really doesn't feel as good unless you're hitting special or focus. And a lot of time he doesn't even feel good unless you're just hitting special. So like that's the common thing we're looking for Yoda. We just want specials pretty much all the time. So there's a car, I wasn't sure what it was doing, so I just wanted to put extra focus on it. So yeah, that's the big breakdown. I should also be getting a Smart Lab Plus. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's made by Rode. I use that for my recording for the Patreon videos and whatnot. Or I use Rode is the company that makes a lot of the like recordings type stuff. But I use their podcaster for recording videos, so that the sound's better, because my speaker or my microphone was always kind of shit. People deserve better. So I'm working on it for this thing too. I'll have these like cord things running up through here, or just a single cord with a mic. So hopefully that the car noise and stuff like that will be much more tempered and lower. But I appreciate you guys, kind of dealing with the hassle of all the noise and the driving, just to kind of listen to me talk. This is someone crazy. So anyone was wondering, the reason I stopped just there for a second was, when someone pulls up past an off-ramp, and they're like, oh no, I was supposed to take that exit, and they like stop and reverse. Yeah, that's what I just watched. But there were two holy shit. There were 2 lanes, and no one's really going super fast, so guy got away with it. But yeah, so like I think we're definitely going to see a shake-up in the meta. Where we end up will be really kind of interesting, to say the least. The Kylo Wolf deck was pretty interesting. Getting perfect information for Kylo is really nice. Also let you try to play around removal, or let you know if you need to do like all-ins and different things like that. So I could potentially see myself, messing with it. I think Wolf is still a bit of a trap, because he still likes damage sides. But if you're looking for that like kind of mid-range aggro deck that can gain massive benefits like as the game goes on, like Wolf can definitely do that, just because the peaking ability really doesn't do anything to start, but later on it's going to be very beneficial, especially with decks that use multiple copies of cards. So you may not always get to choose what you get, but as the game goes on, like you'll start being able to rip important copies, especially if you took a important copy initially. I really heavily dislike the pay side though, on the 2 discard. So I really just don't see myself playing it, except for potentially for shits and giggles. But it is another 13-point kind of like supporting guy to go along with the rest. You just have to kind of question what you want to do. Like, would you just rather run something like Price and whatnot? So what else is there? Yeah, but like Bitter Rivalries kind of helps Snoke still fit into whatever decks he fit into before. You just can't do any of the sillier stuff. So like if you before you couldn't do, you know, E-Snoke, or before you could do E-Snoke, E-Sienna in like a battle droid, and you can no longer do that. I don't think that deck really saw play just because the best defense would kind of ruin your shit. But we'll see where we end up coming to from here. I do miss Friends in Low Places by a lot. If I'm not running Thrawn, then I really do want to be playing that, and that's a bit of a toughie right now. Like where do we go? Do we go back to, you know, hero kind of tanky decks, but then like those decks just lose to around one fist anyways? Because like if Thrawn takes 2 damage, but you can't kill him fast enough, like you still like get him like a fist. But I can see where aggro starts making its comeback now, just because the amount of damage you can output early. What else is there? I'm trying to think if there's any 16-point pairings where you're just like excited. But realistically, if there were any 16-point, you know, characters to go with Snoke that you would have been happy about, you would have already probably seen them see play. Like, sure, you can run it with Tarkin. That is a whole lot of indirect to be throwing around. Maybe it could be good. It's just it's not the same level that Thrawn is. Like the power action from Tarkin, you really need a bunch of additional dice and small dice. So like the deck could potentially exist, but you probably have to run Boundless and a bunch of cheap things. Nexus of Power can be used with Moff to essentially be 2 indirect. You know, quite possibly every round, just because it has the whole thing where it changes die sides. Could be a deck to look into, but like when you lose the ability to focus a guy down, life gets tough, and then when one of those guys dies, it's also really hard on you. But you do have a 4 discard side to resolve, or the 2 discard side that you Snoke into 4, and like that can always be debilitating. They don't really have an action cheat though, unless you're just running 4 speed, which you will be running. So like I said, damage there is just a little all over the place, but who knows? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was listed. The fact that the effective date was the end of November was kind of interesting. Like, so how long ago did they submit that for that to be the effective date? So we are going to have a kind of like Wild West showdown this weekend for regionals. You know, there's a lot of decks that people are thinking about, like, hey, you know, let's look at the decks that, you know, want to cook the other regionals, or top, you know, they placed very well. Can we run any of those? What cards do we want in decks to do things with? I think 3-wide is still going to look at, like, Yoda Leia and be like, can I kill Leia fast enough? If they can kill Leia fast enough, then they don't need to kind of stress the specials too much. But you really can't pay her special once she has a villain card down. You can't pay 2 resources to really stop one of her dice. That's just it's too much of a drawback. And you still completely have to worry about things like hyperspace jumping and whatnot, which are very big problems for a lot of decks. So we'll kind of see how that ends up playing out as well. I'll be in Derry, New Hampshire this Saturday for my regional, and we'll see how it ends up going. I think realistically, it's just one of those things where I kind of probably look down a bit too much, and my overall expectation is like, oh, I'll make top cut no matter what I'm playing, but it's probably not to that level. Like, sure, I can probably outplay most, if not everybody that's there, outside of the team. Quenker gets me all the time because he like fucking level zeros like a 5 after, so like we get to like level 4 and 5 shit, and then he's like back to 0. I'm gonna play this tech team. I got this 2-cost support in hand. There's no way you're gonna call 2, because you're just like, why do you play that tech team? He's sitting with the bubble shield, and he wants me to call 2 and whiff. It's just fucking massive amounts of mind games. But we'll see how I end up doing. I already have my ticket for Worlds because of the GQ and going 6-0 with Thrawn Snoke. shifting. So there's no like overwhelming necessity to make sure I do well. I might just show up with Thrawn, Snoke, and Bitter Rivalry and see if people like decided on other stuff. But I think I want to play an aggro deck, just because people aren't used to seeing me do that shit. Trying to get into that mindset can often be very tough, though. I'm not sure what I would play. Could maybe play a Kylo deck. I have to see how many red cards are in Thrawn, Snoke. See if that makes realistic sense. Let's play some Kylo Wolf, guys. Kylo Wolf. All I know is I definitely want to be playing some Treasured Lightsabers and maybe some Vibro Knives. Vibro Knives are very good right now. Could play some Hero Blue, but then if you get any of those crazy Kylo Wolf players, you know, anyone netting, like, you're just gonna be like, oh shit, this Kylo's gonna hit every time. But like, you could realistically just go burst him down. But so we'll see what ends up happening. This one's not very long. There wasn't a ton of stuff. I definitely glanced over some of the other things that they updated in the rules doc, but for the most part, went over the important matters. Anything comes up, I'll see if I can type it in the description. But thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, follow, I don't know, but do the do. And if you guys ever have interest in learning some artifact, drop me a line. I'll throw down the link. I'm working on the artifactccg.com stuff, but it's kind of hard. I need to make a whole group for that thing. Not enough time in the day, man. Just be life, but not enough time. Just need more time. As I get older, I feel like I just need more and more time. I want more time to sleep, want more time to sit there and do nothing. I need more time so that I don't have to be nearly as efficient as I try to be. But you guys have a great one. Thanks again for listening, and Hyperloops out. Deuces.